Kia ora, Kruze Tangira here from the New Zealand men's netball team. I am joined today by our Australian-based players, Junior, Deepak and Jake, and I thought I'd have a quick catch-up with them before they depart for Australia later this week. First of all, Junior, how great is it to be back home here in Aotearoa?
Oh, it feels great. It feels right. Like when you're home and you're from home, the air tastes good, like the food tastes good. You start telling everyone like, oh yeah, everything tastes so better here in New Zealand. Yes, it's been amazing being back.
And Deepak, from social media, we've seen that you guys have been traveling a little bit around the North Island. Can you sort of talk to us about what you've been up to?
Oh yeah, look, Jake's quite the local here. So we've been down to Rotorua to visit his uncle, and then up at Ahipara where his papa and nana lives, and his auntie. So yeah, it was beautiful up at Ahipara. First time up there, only been past Waiwera, which is quite exciting. So no, it's been amazing.
And Jake, how special was it to take your friends, your close friends, back to your homeland?
It was amazing, especially in this current climate of COVID. I think it really highlights what's really important, and having some of my best friends and taking them back home to meet my family, meet my whānau, and see how beautiful our country is was amazing.
And boys, obviously we know that you all had to go through isolation to partake in the Cadbury Series this year. Junior, can you sort of talk to us about what that process was like and I guess the difficulties that you had in isolation?
First of all, shout out to Cam, who had to go home early for work. I was roomed with Cam, so I think, to be fair, there weren't many difficulties in terms of, we all had each other. We all had space to train at the very least. We made a ball out of some towels. So we just made do, which is kind of like what you do when you're a man that plays netball. You just make do with what you've got. So I guess the only difficult thing was that, for me, the portion of the food was very, very small. So I was always hoping Cam didn't want to eat his food. And then when he sort of left, or if he was asleep, I'd just be like, oh, someone's taking your food. But yeah, that's probably the only hard part, to be honest.
And Jake, as Junior touched on, you guys had to, I guess, make your own training equipment because you weren't allowed to use any in quarantine. Can you talk to us about what you made, and also how, I guess, you used it for training purposes?
Yeah, so as Junior said, we made a ball out of towels. We used a lot of resistance bands because we weren't allowed equipment. But we had about a 200-meter concrete sort of pathway that we used, and we just did lots of sprints, lots of bodyweight stuff. And there was a few days where some of the guys didn't want to wake up and come and train, but we knew that we needed to get out as much as we could before we played.
Are you going to name and shame who those people are?
No.
Junior.
All right, boys, so we get to the Cadbury Series. We're in Palmerston North. We're about to take on the Silver Ferns, the New Zealand A and the New Zealand 21s team. Now, Deepak and Jake, this is your first time that you've been in the New Zealand men's team. Deepak, can you talk to me about, I guess, the feeling of representing not only your country but your family and what it felt like coming up against these three teams?
Yeah. Oh, look, for me, I said I won't get emotional, but it's been a massive, massive achievement for myself. Sometimes people say, don't read the comments or don't listen to the negative vibes, but it's hard to not read those comments or not listen to what other people say. But look, I'm so grateful to have my friends around me and my family. So sorry. So it's to have this achievement and to don our silver fern on our chest is just immaculate, and the people that I got to do it with was just an achievement in itself. So yeah, grateful.
Thank you. And Jake, how did, I guess the same question to you, how did you feel about representing your family and also the New Zealand men's team in the 2020 Cadbury Series?
Yeah, I think same with Deepak. Look, I think we represented a lot more than ourselves, which was really cool. It was great because I got to have my mum and my cousin come down and watch. And as a boy growing up and as an athlete, it's the ultimate goal to represent your country, and being able to do that on national television against the best netball team in the world was incredible.
And Junior, obviously you're a part of the 2019 Cadbury Series. Can you talk to us about the differences between 2019 and 2020, or if there were any differences between the two series?
Yeah, I think the difference was we're probably in like a building stage in terms of the New Zealand men's team. We had a full trial process in preparation for a World Cup that didn't happen. So I think having the Cadbury Series was a great opportunity for us to, actually see what we've got and have the boys under some sort of pressure. And obviously the building block towards next year. Once again, all the massive emotions were still the same. Like, it felt the same running out. It was emotional being in camp with the men. It was emotional being on court in terms of, what you represent in your South and also the collective. But once again, I think regardless of the result that happened at the end of the week, I think the feeling was still the same. Massive excitement, massive satisfactory, I guess. I was satisfied with the result. I was satisfied with our team's output, in our own group. And that's a massive, massive proud.
There's obviously a lot of positives that came out of the 2020 Cadbury Series. You touched on visiting schools. We've also created huge excitement within the community. Can you talk to me how much those positives or those achievements mean to us, Junior?
Yeah, I think, every time we have those conversations in public, whether it just be like one of us and a fan on the side of the court, or any opportunities in media, it just shapes the national conversation about sport. There's such a stigma around men's netball for so long, and the 2019 Cadbury helped change that, and there was a lot of conversation in the netball space, but I think the 2020 Cadbury Series has changed that in terms of the national space. You've got so many people that don't talk about netball, talking about men's netball, talking about how it's a credible sport, just wanting to see more as well. And I think what that does is just creates a buzz that, us as players, we just have an obligation to ride it, and we have a responsibility to really be, trailblazers and, be inspiration leaders, with the Bring It On reference, in terms of just what's next. And I think, I'm just hungry for what's next for us, really.
And Jake, what kind of experiences did you have with these young tamariki from those schools down in Palmerston North? I guess shaped the way that you see the impact that you have on men's netball community?
Oh, absolutely. I think when we got to the schools, I was not expecting all of that, to be honest. It was really humbling and eye-opening, just to see how much we represent, not just ourselves, but everybody as well. I think the true message was that, this right here, Cadbury, is so much bigger than us individually. It's about growing our sport, but it's also about giving our kids opportunity and pathways to be where we are someday, and hopefully that looks a lot bigger and better.
And Deepak, just from a global perspective, obviously you live in Queensland. How has the 2019 and the 2020 Cadbury Series, how has that started conversations of men's netball and the way that people perceive it?
Oh, it's been absolutely massive back home in Australia. There's been a lot of people that have been messaging me, wishing me good luck, and obviously wishing that sort of thing could happen anywhere, as well as I have some friends in England, friends in South Africa that also have that feel as well. So it'd be good to, bring that out to them as well globally. I think for us in New Zealand, we're doing quite well in creating that brand here, but the next step is for us to take that out to everywhere else as well. And I guess our first step should be Australia, and they're a big nation. We should start there, and then from there on branch out to other friends out in England and South Africa as well.
And Jake, we had a lot of young boys that came up to us and they were really enthusiastic about men's netball. Can you sort of talk to us about some sort of experiences that you had with these young boys?
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to go out and visit some schools, and some of the boys actually came to some of our games, which was really heartwarming for a lot of us. We didn't really expect that, and even afterwards, we've had lots of parents and boys reach out to us to tell us how proud they were of us, regardless of the result. So that just goes to prove that that it was bigger than the result, that there's so much more to come, and that we're at the start of an amazing journey.
Junior, obviously, a first time this year, the New Zealand men's team was sponsored financially and also for our uniform by two incredible organisations, Canterbury and also Sport Manawatu. I mean, can you explain, I guess, the feeling that other organisations from outside our community are actually valuing us as players and as a sport? What does that feel like to you?
Oh, it feels amazing. And I think amazing is probably overused now during this interview. But with Sport Manawatu and Canterbury coming on, especially with the Balance is Better prospect, obviously Sport Manawatu are really big on this Balance is Better, and it talks about a variety of sports holistically across the board. So I feel like they came on to men's netball because men's netball is an unknown space, and them taking space in it means that really is Balance is Better. Basically, it's very self-explanatory. So for us to actually have a commercial sponsor just means that what we're doing actually makes sense, because at the moment in sport, regardless of who you are or where you are, it really matters when money matters, and that's how these functions get played. That's how pathways are created. That's how we grow, and we grow our structures as without money. So just the ability for us just to come here and play the sport that we love, and not have to worry about a financial strain, is massive. And I don't think people, and most of us athletes, underestimate what that feels like. But for us to be able to, just go home into the hotel rooms back in Palmerston North, sleep peacefully, wake up, get ready to train again, it's massive. And hopefully it grows, and it just grows once again with all of us taking part and, really taking space.
And unfortunately, we have to let you guys go soon because you are travelling home back to Queensland and back to Victoria. Junior, can you talk to us about what life looks like once you get home back to Melbourne and sort of get back into normal life?
Yeah, we're just gonna plan our move back in 2021. Really, it's probably the only plan. Yeah, I guess for all of us, it's back to life. Like, Christmas is coming. Hopefully, a lot of our family are scattered in Australia, so hopefully I'll have the opportunity to go home to Queensland and see my family. But I think, more than anything, we're super excited about what's next with netball. Like, your life as an athlete's very short. So, now that we're here, now that this has happened, I think for us, a lot of it's going back and getting ready for what's next year. Whether it means moving home, whether it means training hard for what's coming next, I think I'm just super excited about that.
And the same for you, Deepak, because I know you're going to Queensland and you have to quarantine. What does life sort of look like for you once you get home?
Oh, look, I'm just excited to make my new dance video clip in in quarantine. No, look, yeah, so I'm unfortunate enough to be going back in quarantine, but after quarantine, I'm not looking forward to quarantine, but after quarantine, like, it's pretty much back on the bandwagon of training for me. So Nationals for Oz coming up next year, so it's back into training for Queensland Suns.
And Jake, where would you like to see, I guess, men's netball head from now? Obviously, we've had some really great exposure with the 2 Cadbury Series last year and this year. What sort of next steps would you like men's netball to take going forward?
Yeah, look, I think just more pathways coming through for our primary school kids. So we've seen that already, but I'd love to see more of that. And maybe through high schools and secondary schools as well. Yeah.
And just quickly, boys, before we wrap up this interview, can you talk me through your best moments of the 2020 Cadbury Series, starting with you, Junior?
Probably the Porphyry. When we went to see the Te Kura Te Manawatu, those kids were amazing. Because it was our first time all together, just how special us coming together and that sort of start to our journey was amazing.
And for you, Deepak?
Was visiting the Fielding Intermediate Boys tournament. That was, I guess, a highlight. All those kids that we visited, massive inspiration for me and obviously for us to them.
And lastly, yourself, Jake.
Look, they both took my my answers, so I'll probably say the next one would be just the team getting together in camp and seeing how well we all slimed together. So that was awesome. Yeah.
All right, boys. Well, I just want to say on behalf of the New Zealand men's netball team, thank you so much for the sacrifices that you've made to come over and play and represent your country. Not only are you great players, but you're great inspiration to these young tamariki and also great models for men's netball in this country and around the world. So thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you again next year, and all the best for the rest of 2021.